Hi, we are on the Real Programming channel. It is about HTML and CSS. My name is Andrei. This is our 43 lesson. I greet you. We will talk about getting serious with HTML. 6 chapters, standards, and all that jazz. Let's go. What else is there to know about HTML? You're well on your way to mastering HTML. In fact, isn't it about time we move on to CSS and learn how to make all this blend markup look fabulous? Before we do, we need to make sure your HTML is really ready for the big leagues. Don't get us wrong, you've been writing first-class HTML all along, but there are just a few extra things you need to do to make it industry standard HTML. It's also time you think about making sure you're using the latest and greatest HTML standard, otherwise known as HTML5. By doing so, you'll ensure they'll display more uniformly across all browsers. At least the ones you'd care about, not to mention they'll play well with the latest iDevices. Pick your favorite. You'll also have pages that load faster, pages that are guaranteed to play well with CSS, and pages that are ready to move into the future as the standards grow. Get ready, this is the chapter where you move from web tinkerer to web professional. Hey guys, the boss just sent an email before we add CSS to the head first long. He wants us to make sure our HTML is ready for prime time. Brain power. Browsers all do a pretty good job at consistently displaying your pages when you write correct HTML. But when you make mistakes or do non-standard things in your HTML, pages are often displayed differently from one browser to another. Why do you think that is the case? A brief history of HTML. HTML 1, 2. These were the early days. You could fit everything there was to know about HTML into the back of your car. Pages weren't pretty, but at least they were hypertext enabled. No one cared much about presentation, and just about everyone on the web had their very own homepage. Even a count of the number of pencils, paper clips, and post-it notes on your desk was considered web content back then. You think we're kidding. HTML3. The long, cold days of the browser's wars. Netscape and Microsoft were duking it out for control of the world. After all, he who controls the browser controls the universe, right? At the center of the float was the web developer. During the wars, an arms race emerged as each browser company kept adding their own proprietary extensions in order to stay hip. Who could keep up? And not only that, back in those days you had to often write two separate web pages, one for the Netscape browser and one for Internet Explorer. Not good. HTML4. The end of the web browser. And to our rescue, the World Wide Web Consortium, nicknamed W3C, to bring order to the universe by creating their one HTML standard to rule them all. To cater to their plan, separate HTML's structure and presentation into two languages, a language for structure HTML and a language for presentation CSS, and to convince their browser makers it was in their best interest to adopt these standards. But did their plan work? Almost, with a few changes. See HTML 4.0.1. HTML 4.0.1, The Good Life. HTML 4.0.1 entered the scene in 1999 and was the must-have version of HTML for the next decade. 4.0.1 wasn't really a big change from 4.0. Just a few fixes were needed here and there, but compared to the early days of HTML, when we all had to walk barefoot in 6 feet of snow, uphill both ways. HTML 4.0.1 allowed us all to sleep well at night, knowing that almost all browsers, at least the ones anyone would care about, were going to display our content just fine. XHTML 1.0, just as we were all getting comfortable, a shiny object distracted everyone. That shiny object was XML. In fact, it really distracted HTML, and the two got hitched in a shotgun marriage that resulted in XHTML 1.0. XHTML promised to end all the voice of the web with its adherence to strictness and new way of doing things. The only problem was most people ended up hitting XHTML. They didn't want a new way to write web pages. They just wanted to improve what they already had with HTML 4.0.1. Web developers were far more interested in HTML's flexibility than XHTML's strictness. And more, these developers wanted to spend their time creating web pages that felt more like applications than documents. More on web apps later. HTML5. Of course, with no support from the community, the marriage didn't end well and was replaced by a new version of HTML, named HTML5. With its support for most of the HTML 4.0.1 standard and new features that reflect the way the web has grown, HTML5 is what developers were looking for, and with features like support for block-like elements, new video and graphic capabilities, and a whole new set of capabilities aimed at building web applications, HTML5 was destined to become the standard. To be honest, the divorce of HTML and XML took a lot of people by surprise, leading to confusion about what HTML5 actually is for a while. But that's all been sorted out, so read on to find out what HTML5 means to you and how you can join in the fun. And what will happen in the future? Will we all be going to work in flying cars and swallowing nutrition pills for dinner? Keep reading to find out. HTML Archaeology exercise. We did some digging and found some old HTML 4.0.1 and XHTML 1.1 pages. These pages use the Doctype at the very top of the HTML5 to tell the browser which version of HTML they're using. We've snipped out a couple of Doctypes for you to look at. Check them out below. Look on Sublime Text. This is specifying a document type for this page to the browser. This means that HTML is the root first element in your page. This just means the HTML 4.0.1 standard is publicly available. This part says we're using HTML version 4.0.1 and that HTML markup is written in English. You can type this all on one line, or if you want, you can add a return where we did. Just make sure you only press return in between the part in the quotes. Notice that this is not an HTML element. It has this. After this. At the beginning, which tells you this is something different. It points to a file that identifies this particular standard, just like the HTML Doctype. This is public document type. This is still version of HTML and XML version. It's for the XHTML 1.1 version of XHTML, and it has a URL pointing to the definition of XHTML11. For more on XHTML, check out the appendix. Sharpen your pencil. Written exercise. Write and then tell you the doctype definition for HTML5. We thought you might want to have fun working it out on your own. Take another look at the HTML401 doctype definition below. Remember, this is the doctype for HTML, and this means this means the standard is publicly available. This part says we're using HTML version 401 and that its markup is written in English. The points to a file that identifies this standard. Remember, the doctype definition belongs at the top of your HTML file and tells the browser the type of your document. In this case, HTML401, by using a doctype, the browser is able to be more precise in the way it interprets and renders your pages. So using your deductive powers, what do you think the doctype definition for HTML5 looks like? Write it here on your sheet of paper. You can refer back so the new and improved HTML5 doctype. We'll talk about this in the next lesson, and this concludes our lesson 43. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, please. Put likes, share with friends, comment, eat bananas, chocolate and nuts. Drink more water for the effective work of our brains. Bye.